Once a quiet secondary jungle with lush greenery was now earmarked for an upcoming housing project. And what remains is the sound of heavy machinery and construction work. In the evening, work finally stops while children hurried home after playtime, just before their parents return from work. The resounding Maghrib prayers fill the environment while a serene calm permeates the surrounding with the soothing hue of the blue twilight of the dusk fills the village. A serenity that will all be shattered by a sense of dread as word of mouth spread across the community about bizarre occurrences. At a busy banana fritter stall at the corner of the road, there was a commotion. A boy working at the stall has been attacked by a cockatoo bird. The bird made a deafening loud quacking sound and attacked the boy, who screamed in pain and was left with welts all over his body. The stall was closed for days as the boy's condition was unknown. A friend returning home at night after religious class saw that same bird perched on the roof of his house. The next day, the dad was shocked to see his pet rabbits have disappeared, though the cage and padlock remained intact. Neighbors said that it was snakes, as their livestock has gone missing as well. They vowed to set a trap to catch this slithering predator. Every kid had their own version of such stories. Some were downright silly, laughable even, but some were sinister and creepy. My friend Mira was missing from our usual hangout group. Oh, you didn't know? The stubborn girl went playing outside again at night and fell sick, said a friend. It's the scary white bird, I'm telling you. It bit her. It loves to attack naughty children, shouted another boy, startling all of us. Within days, more of such encounters were experienced by my friends. Some weeks later, I saw my friend Nor's father looking grim and talking with some religious men. The leader of the group saw me and sternly directed me to go inside my house. While doing so, I could catch glimpses of them performing a ritual sprinkling of holy water onto a tree. Days later, I met my friend Nor. He looked a bit pale. He told me that while he was sleeping, he felt a heavy entity paralyzing him head to toe, gnawing his right arm. In fear, he recited his prayer, and while he slowly opened his eyes, he saw it leap out of the window, disappearing into the night. The next morning, he told family members about his ordeal. My friend showed me his arms with reddish bite marks on his fingers and wrist, and it unnerved me. His father consulted Pak Brahim, the same man I encountered days ago performing the rituals near my house. He described it as a lady draped in white with long hair, patchy pale ashen skin. Her eyes were dead as the night's darkness itself. And as he continued to elaborate, in my head I could immediately imagine her. It was that same lady from the book. She's still here, tormenting us. Few weeks later, sightings of the lady in white were becoming more and more prevalent. But this time, stories of a white cockatoo bird attacking people in public areas followed as well. Coincidence? Perhaps not. It was seen at the public payphone at night. Sometimes when we were talking in a group and heard a loud squawking sound, we would just rush back home. Apparitions spotted on trees, back alleys and roadsides were becoming more and more prevalent. Some were stories of paranoia, I'm sure, but some sounded convincing. Too convincing. Like the one I'm going to tell you right now. It was a dreary early evening. A teenage girl named Lina was quietly sobbing, clutching a neatly folded blanket in one arm. and a small hand shovel in the other. She walked along the wet road into an abandoned rubber plantation that was located at the edge of the neighbourhood. She looked around and found a clearing near an old rubber tree and started digging the moist soil, slowly creating what looks like a shallow grave. Once done, she carefully placed the folded blanket into the hole. It was the final resting place for her pet cat which has departed. Later in the evening, back home, she was having dinner with her family. Lena had always been an overweight child with a voracious appetite. Once she emptied her plate, she demanded for more, which was quite common, and her mother obliged. Things turned suspicious when she continued eating more and more and more. After her fourth plate of rice, her worried mother said, "That is enough. The rest of the family needs to eat as well." Lena became agitated and threw her plate on the floor. Her family members were furious at Lena's antics, and her brother demanded her to apologize at once. But she got up quietly, paused for a moment, slowly glancing at everyone in the house, and walked upstairs into her room without a word. Her entire family was shocked with her unusual behavior. But Mum assured them she must be just acting up due to the loss of her cat. After Maghrib prayers, Lena returned home late one day, and being questioned of her whereabouts, she screamed out obscenities. At this point, the family could feel that something was wrong with Lena, as she sounded different. Her face contorted into a menacing scowl, and her eye pupils turned upward, waving her hands uncontrollably, hitting her family members as they all sprang into action, trying to hold her down as she continued kicking and screaming. And though her dad and brothers tried to hold her down, she just stopped in exhaustion. When she regained consciousness, she got up, walked to her mom, and asked her mom, who was sitting in the corner of the house crying, "What's wrong, Mommy? What happened?" She had no recollection of what has just happened. Her mom prompted the father to seek assistance from an eminent religious authority of the community. The next evening, Pak Brahim arrived with two of his apprentices. They heard attentively to what the dad had to say. He sprinkled holy water at every corner of the house. He asked the girl's father to come out of the house. There is a disturbance in the house and need to be exorcised. He ordered everyone to gather in the living room, initiating a prayer session to invoke the spirit. Minutes later, Lena, with her eyes closed, started grunting and gnashing her teeth. Pak Brahim, in a stern voice, started questioning the spirit. "Who are you?" No answers ensued. Pak Brahim raised his voice once again. "Leave this girl alone and get out of this house now." A little snickering and a sly smile appeared on Lena's face, as though to taunt him. While he was reciting the verses, the lights started to flicker. Agitated at this point, he started to heckle and demean the spirit by using crass words. The demon started to taunt him on how his ill-fated dad met his doom while performing a similar ritual. This raged him even more, and he took out a bottle of holy water and splashed it on Lena's face. The spirit screamed in pain as Pak Brahim shouted, "Do not take me to be a cheap thrill seeker. I have seen many like you and sent them to the depths of the fiery end." The spirit lunged at him and tried to physically hurt him. The two apprentices tried to pull Lena away, but the spirit shrugged them down to the floor, tossing them across the room like rag dolls. They scampered away and asked the family to take cover as things were turning ugly. Lena now walked in circles around Pak Brahim. "Ibrahim bin Manso, you dare to chase me out, you petulant child? I have been here since your ancestors were suckling whelps. I will end your bloodline." He left a mark on his face, and Pak Brahim started to lose composure. "You leave now and never come back." Pak Brahim took off immediately, with his 2 young apprentices scrambling behind him. The others could only look from far, in terror as Lina fell to the floor unconscious. Her family ran to her aid. Later that day, Lina's dad tried to call Pak Brahim many times, but no answers. The family was now in a desperate state and would try anything. The relatives suggested they engage a wise shaman from a local indigenous tribe. Lina's father obliged. He traveled deep into the heart of the indigenous reservation and visited the shaman, mournfully described the issue his family was facing and begged the shaman for help. One fateful night, the shaman came to the house. He laid out a hand-weaved mat on the floor and performed an ancient folk ritual, which caused Lina to be repossessed by the powerful spirit. But his approach was calm and respectful. He spoke in his native language, and Lina, who was seated, replied. The back and forth between the shaman and the spirit ended when the shaman whispered something in Lina's ear, while she placed her face in her palm and wept. While packing his things, "It is done," said the shaman. He explained to the family that Lina had been possessed by a powerful ancient spirit, whose eternal resting place, a huge black tree, had been chopped down. The spirit has been wandering in search of another habitant, causing her to grow weaker and hungrier by the moment, resorting her to attack children and feed on small animals. The spirit grew fond of Lina, who buried her deceased cat into the ground. The spirit felt that Lina has actually fed the spirit. The spirit was hoping Lina could replace the old hermit living in the hut, who used to be the caregiver, but he too has mysteriously disappeared as well. The shaman revealed that after much persuasion, the spirit agreed to leave Lina alone if the spirit's desires were met. The shaman refused to divulge on it as he feared it would jeopardize the nature of the agreement. Lina's father gave the shaman a fee, and the entire family thanked him. When Lina's father grabbed his car keys to drive the shaman home, the shaman stopped him, as he said he will have to do the final step alone. Over the next few weeks, there were no such occurrences, and normalcy once again returned to my quaint, unassuming neighborhood. But we, the children, were still wary, understandably cautious to go out at night. Though my friends and I had speculations about what happened to the ravenous spirit. Was the shaman the new caretaker? Did he bind the spirit to another tree? Did he capture the spirit in a bottle, using it for his own nefarious reasons? Or my personal favorite, the shaman reunited the spirit with the old hermit, and they lived happily ever after. Nevertheless, I'm just glad that this dark and sinister episode in our lives had come to an end. In my early 20s, I enjoyed going on long bicycle rides, exploring this part of the city. The landscape has quickly and surely changed since the early 90s. New communities have sprung up, and various upgrades to the infrastructures are still in progress. Even with the impending modernity, I still love to traverse the older parts of the neighborhood, like the farmlands and the village, which has transformed into a uniquely rural and modern place. Remember that housing project? Well, it is now a small, unremarkable neighborhood. One day, as I was cycling around this neighborhood, something caught my eye. Among a row of houses, at a corner lot, there was an empty plot of land. It was kept idle. I stopped cycling. My curiosity fired up. As I stood there, thinking, something is obviously amiss about this area. Suddenly hit me. My memory came flooding back. I shuddered as a sense of dread overcame me. I stepped on the pedal and cycled as fast as I could, away from that place. I have accidentally stumbled upon the spot. The very same spot where the crooked pillar of terror, the accursed black tree, abode of the lady in white used to be. My mind was racing, speculating about the terms of the agreement struck between the shaman and the evil spirit. I remembered what she uttered to the religious practitioner Pak Brahim. "You dare to chase me out, you petulant child? I have been here since your ancestors were suckling whelps." What if she's still here, resting, bound to the land, ticking away like a time bomb? I no longer live in good old Gombak, Kuala Lumpur, as my family moved out in the mid-2000s, and we are now living in another suburb. It's been close to 2 decades now, and I hate to admit that sometimes, late at night, I still ponder about the hauntings, the attacks, the black tree, and what was the final agreement between the spirit and the shaman. So, a word of caution: if you happen to hear squawking or see a white cockatoo perched at a nearby tree, perhaps it is searching for its next prey. Close your doors, say your prayers, and be mindful of your kids' whereabouts, as it might just be that the lady in white might have just moved in to your neighborhood.